This is Sway.
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 In the morning.
In the morning.
In the morning.
Shake your fire.
Wake your fuck ass up. That crust out your eyes.
This book called High Price, written by Dr. Carl Hart, a neuroscientist's journey of self-discovery that challenges everything you know about drugs and society. And being that a lot of people that tune into our show also uses drugs and are affected by drugs, I just thought it'd be fun to have an interesting conversation about a different perspective on what drugs do and how they impact the community as well as how they impact a person. So we invited Carl Hart, PhD, here with us on Sway in the Morning, Shade 4-5. How you doing, Carl?
Happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Dr. Carl Hart, PhD, is an associate professor in the departments of psychology and psychiatry at Columbia University. What does that mean, man? That's a big title.
Just means that I study drugs on the brain, man. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
You grew up in Florida?
I grew up in Miami. Yeah.
In Miami. And see, Heather, this account is from both sides of the spectrum. You used to sell drugs.
I sold drugs, used drugs. I grew up in the hood, the projects. I even did some music with Luke Skywalker or Luther Campbell. Back in the day, I was a DJ, did all those kinds of things. Yeah. Yeah.
And he used to listen to me in the Bay, Heather B.
Wow.
Back in the day, yeah.
No, because it's just like, all right, the way it was put together, did you start doing drugs because you was with Luke? Like,
right. I used to be with Luke Skywalker. I did all kind of drugs.
Yeah, like what happened?
Wait, now, hold up now. It's not like I was like overindulgent. That's just like, people growing up, they try drugs, they do things.
Okay.
Socializing.
Yeah, it wasn't,
social drugs.
Yeah, like you all do.
Excuse you.
Hey.
I don't do drugs. I drink. I'm an alcoholic.
I do some drugs.
Well, okay, great. Like you people do.
You people.
What kind of drugs did you sell?
Just weed, little weed.
Okay, and what kind did you take?
Did cocaine, weed. That's it.
Dang, he never did no cocaine, man. You said those drugs y'all do.
Yeah, I didn't do that either.
Now, one of the things I read about was a lot of people blame cocaine, crack cocaine, for bringing down communities, for impacting communities like where I grew up in Oakland. People say it was the crack cocaine era that just stripped Oakland of all its glory and ran through urban communities across the country. Your theory is a bit different.
Yeah, that's why I wrote the book mainly because, I see in hip hop, I see a lot of black people blaming crack, for example, for the downfall of the community. There are a number of facts that I talk about in the book. One of the most important things when we talk about communities not doing well, unemployment is an important indicator. So when you look in this country, 1982 was the highest unemployment rate in the black community, higher than it ever had been. Crack didn't hit. The first reports of crack was L.A. Times, December 1984. Yeah. But it really didn't hit until like 1985. So they blamed crack for the unemployment rates in the black community. Unemployment rates doing crack has never been as high as they were in 1982, Ronald Reagan. That's the sort of real reason. The policies that happened under his administration was the real reasons that the communities got destroyed. Another thing is that they say, well, crack was blamed because a new generation of grandmothers were raising children. Well, grandmothers were raising the children of their daughters because their daughters were out there on crack. Like this kind of thing happened in the hood in black communities long before crack ever hit. It happened in my family. My grandmother raised me. It happened in Jewish families when they came over here. This was a function of poverty, not a function of the drug. And so all of these things that we blame crack for were already there. And it allowed politicians not to really deal with employment, education, poverty, racism, all of these things they could avoid dealing with by simply blaming crack. And we played right into that. And so that's the reason.
You said weed played right into that?
Our community.
Our community played, okay.
Our community played right into that narrative.
Okay, what about communities that aren't black communities, that are just poor communities that aren't predominantly black and are impacted by crack cocaine? Does the variables change, or is it the same thing?
No, it's the same. It's the same sort of thing. Like poor people around the country have more things in common than they don't have in common. But you know how in this country we divide these we play people against each other, and that happens at the political level. So if you have a poor community, because like right now the major thing in poor white communities we're talking about is methamphetamine.
Yeah,
and they're using methamphetamine as a way of saying that these communities are somehow less than, because of the methamphetamine. No, those communities are less than because they are poor. People don't have jobs. They don't have skills.
So are you insinuating that is because of those conditions, or partially because of those conditions, this could be the reason why people are using these drugs?
Absolutely. I mean, part of our research, we do this sort of thing. We try and figure out, like, if you provide people with alternatives, and for example, we bring people into the lab and we give them a choice between, we bring crack cocaine addicts in the lab, we give them a choice between something simple like a $5 in cash or a hit of crack cocaine. These are people who are identified as addicts. And then so what you see is that they take drug on about half of the occasions and that low $5 on the other half of the occasion. But when you raise the amount to something like $20, they almost never take drug. They always take the money.
They take the money.
So it tells you that these alternatives are critically important. We've also seen this in laboratory animal studies, a wide range of studies. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, economic deprivation plays an important role in whether someone will take drugs or not.
Okay, this is interesting. Carl Hart, former cocaine user, weed seller, now PhD. He knows what he's talking about. We're going to open up the phone lines, take more questions about this. And I want to ask you about some of these designer drugs and what you can tell us about the Xanaxes and the Adderalls and all that stuff. 888-742-3345. Sway in the morning, Shade 45. We got the author of the book, High Price. A neuroscientist's journey of self-discovery that challenges everything you know about drugs and society. Dr. Carl Hart has joined us. Some interesting theories going on. Well, not even theories, it's facts. You researched these things that you're saying, and as a result, you share this in your book. What made you write this book?
The major reason I wrote this book is because one of the things that I saw is happening is that we've been lying to people about drugs in this society. And primarily, those lies have primarily led to large numbers of black people being arrested for drugs. And so I had to share this truth. If I didn't share this truth, I just felt irresponsible myself as a black neuroscientist.
What is the difference between legalization and decriminalization?
Yeah, so legalization is what we do with alcohol and tobacco. You know, you can sell it, buy it without fear of criminal prosecution. With decriminalization, you treat drugs just like you treat traffic violations. So they still are illegal, but you only give people a fine and not a criminal prosecution or a criminal offense. So you now you don't arrest large numbers of people for having drugs on their possession like we're doing now in this country.
So if I get caught for holding a small amount of weed, how different is that in terms of in the judicial system and of me getting caught with a $20 piece of rock cocaine? So with crack cocaine, with small amounts of crack cocaine, for example, can lead to mandatory minimum sentences in prison. And so you spend mandatory of 5 years, let's say, whereas with the marijuana, you might get a couple days, 30 days or something like that. You don't have this mandatory minimum. And so like crack cocaine was punished so harshly that we sent a large number of people to jail. 80% of the people arrested under the crack laws were black, even though they don't use crack at higher rates than white people. Damn, 80%. Tracy, you got to stop doing crack.
Anyways, right, don't rat me out. Okay, Dr. Hart, I'm interested because you've been on both sides of the drug fence, from selling, using, and then researching. What position do you take with the legalization of marijuana?
Yeah, so legalization of marijuana, Colorado and Washington, they both have legalized marijuana. I think that they are interesting experiments in that we should do those sorts of things. Now, in the book, I argue for decriminalizing all drugs like they do in Portugal. And Portugal is doing better than us on all these drug indicators, lower drug use rates, lower drug overdose, and so forth. So I argue for just decriminalizing everything. I don't argue for legalization because I'm a little concerned that what's going to happen without the proper amount of education. people are going to make up these incredible stories about things that happens related to marijuana. Like you're saying in Colorado, they're saying things like, this person ate some marijuana and killed their wife. This person ate some marijuana and killed himself. Of course, marijuana is not the reason that those things happen, but people are being told this and people believe that. And when those kind of things happen, that's when they pass these draconian drug laws that has a lot more deleterious or dangerous effects than the drugs themselves. And so I'm arguing in the book that we should increase realistic education in order to inoculate people from that kind of rubbish. You know what I'm saying?
That makes a lot of sense.
Alejandro is in Boston. Good morning, Alejandro.
What's up?
What's up? What's your question?
So I kind of have a question because I've tried Adderall before, and the effects it gives to me is not the same effects that it gives the person that is prescribed to it. And I'm just trying to, what is Adderall for?
First of all, you said it gives you different effects than the person that's prescribed. I wonder how you figure that out. That's number one. So when we think about Adderall is amphetamine. That's basically the same drug as methamphetamine. I've done a lot of studies with this, and Adderall is used to keep people awake, make you more alert. They're taking at larger doses, you can get some euphoria. It also decreases food intake. It's approved for that reason too, the decreased food intake. Our military uses the drug like Adderall to keep the soldiers awake during war and those sorts of things. So it's one of those drugs that's been with us for about 100 years, and it's been used, it's been abused, it's been used safely. So it's an important drug.
Is there a consequence to taking that? Like down the line, have we done studies like 10, 20, 30 years later would affect taking Adderall?
Yeah, we've done studies for like 60 years. Our military has been doing Adderall since 1940s.
Oh, wow.
And so Adderall, just like alcohol, just like any of these things, they've been around, and it certainly can be used safely. But they also have their potential dangers, just like alcohol. And so as long as you understand, if you're taking Adderall, make sure you sleep. It disrupts sleep, because sleep disruptions could cause you all kinds of problems. Make sure you eat. If you're not eating right, of course, you can get into some trouble. So if you understand all of those things, and you're taking Adderall, you're exercising, eating well, doing all those sorts of things, you decrease the likelihood of getting into problems with these things.
Okay.
Why would anybody want to take Adderall? You don't eat and you don't sleep. That's just not on my list. I want to do both of those all the time and drink. Bull to Adderall.
Oh, jeez. All right, Trish is on the line from Ohio. Good morning, Trish.
Good morning, everybody. Love your show. Can't drive or my job every day without listening to you guys because you make my mornings. But anyway, my question is, I work a lot in the community with people who have addiction, and a lot of times people tell me that they started doing secondhand drugs, meaning like heroin, crack, cocaine, because they were prescribed pain medicines or Xanax or other legally prescribed drugs, and then that kind of spiraled into when they were cut off from a doctor, they had to turn into the street drugs to function and keep going. And also, I would like to know your take on addictive personalities. Like, if a person shows addictive personalities, is that a common sign of a person that potentially is a drug abuser?
So I'll deal with addictive personality first. Addictive personality is a nice popular sort of term or phrase, but there's no evidence to support anything remotely similar, close to addictive personality. That's the next book, by the way. I want to shatter that myth. And the first point that you were making about some people starting their drug use based on a prescription that they got from a physician. I don't know the numbers where that actually happens. I know people talk about that sort of thing. You know, most physicians are responsible and they know about dose and they know how to wean people off appropriately. But certainly that can happen. But I think that happens at a lot lower rate than we talk about. My concern there is that people are blaming physicians in this regard, and what's going to happen, and there is a movement for this, is that we won't be able to get the medications that we need when we're in pain, for example, as a result of some strict regulations that might happen. So we need to be careful and make sure we have some evidence to support those sort of claims about physicians causing people to become addicted.
We're speaking with Dr. PhD Carl Hart is with us. Real quick before, and the book is called High Price. People could get this book online, right?
Yeah.
And Amazon or what?
Amazon, but you can also go to highpricethebook.com and get it from there as well.
You have a social Twitter address? Because we got a lot of people online with questions, and I want them to reach out to you directly. You have a
Twitter is Dr. Carl Hart. Of course, one word. That's Dr. Carl Hart.
Hart. Hart. Hit them directly with the questions you have. Real quick, Molly. A lot of people in this generation, they pop in these Molly pills. It comes in different forms. Right, Tracy, have you ever seen it?
Yeah, well, you know.
Wait, hold up. Najee. What different forms of Molly are there? Najee, go ahead, our videographer.
It's good.
Okay.
Najee, wait.
Okay, Molly, is it?
Yeah, so we think about Molly. Molly, it all depends what people are talking about. If people are talking about real Molly, MDMA, ecstasy, so that's just methylene dioxymethamphetamine. So it's an amphetamine, just like Adderall is an amphetamine, but it has an additional ring on it, and that additional ring has some hallucinogenic properties, just like visual hallucinations you might have, but really small. And but it is an amphetamine, has the same sort of effects of amphetamine along with these other sort of.
But what's the
effects.
pleasure principle about, when you take Molly? People like to touch and.
Well, I mean, you can get that with Molly. You can get that with some opiates. You can get that with cocaine. It all depends. The setting is critically important whenever you take drugs. If you take drugs in a setting in which you are comfortable with people you dig and everything's cool, you can get some really enhancement of that social interaction. But if you're taking drugs in situations where you might be paranoid next to a police shop, that sort of thing, you can also get some.
The opposite.
you can get some bad effects.
Okay. Dr. Carl Hart, thank you for coming by. You almost make drugs sound like they're okay to use.
Like a candy
I
bar.
want to use Molly.
I don't need to tell you that. People already know that. I'm trying to keep people safe.
There it is, man. Dr. Carl Hart.
It's Sway in the morning, only on Shade 45.